It's these little
Yes.
moments that have such an impact on our identity because it's there to protect us. I learned the power of our own mind, that every pattern, every issue, challenge that we ever go through is because of this armor that we're wearing. So if you're thinking
Mm.
about the worst case scenario 24/7, it gets stuck in a loop because it's addicted to the familiar. You start releasing so much cortisol, stress hormones, and that's what's sending all the signals to the rest of your organs. And what you were saying about how we start getting, inflammation and we have all these
Yes.
physical issues as a result of our mind, that's why it happens. So, like I said, we always jump to the worst case scenario,
Yes.
producing the cortisol and eventually leading us to those results. Instead, the key thing is to stop yourself and say, oh, I'm running the same pattern. What is the best case scenario instead? So I challenge everybody in the professional world to put down the shield because that's what AI cannot replace.
Welcome, Nurhan. It's a pleasure having you here with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited.
All right, let me introduce you to the audience. Nurhan, you are a transformational keynote speaker and certified hypnotherapist. You help professionals and teams move from overthinking and self-doubt into clarity and confident leadership. With over a decade of experience across international corporate environments and humanitarian work, you've worked with CEOs, senior executives, and professional athletes. You blend neuroscience, nervous system regulation, and identity level work to help people remove the invisible patterns that keep them stuck and help them step into alignment.
Yes, a handful, but thank you so much.
That sounds like very exciting, and I cannot wait to dive into your journey and hear more about your work. But let's get to know you more on a personal level. Who is Nurhan? What is your story, and how did you discover this vocation of yours?
Ooh, this goes all the way back to I was born in Azerbaijan. Nobody ever knows this tiny little country. It used to be part of the Soviet Union. And I went to a school that was so strict. I remember we had to sit like this. There was absolutely no breaks, no recess. And then when I moved to the United States, I was in third grade. And I remember just looking around. It felt like everybody was speaking gibberish. When we went outside for the first time, I was like, why are we going outside in the middle of the day? Recess. I didn't know what that was. And
Okay.
yeah, it was a huge, identity change for me because I moved to a new country, didn't know anybody. And, I remember one of the most embarrassing moments of my life was I was at recess and this boy, my first crush ever in third grade, comes up to me and goes, Nurhan, and I remember looking at him, it's all gibberish, but I'm just smiling with my red cheeks, just so happy he's talking to me. And I could tell he's trying to explain something. Then he just gave up and walked away. And next thing I know, there is a ball flying right in my face and just hits me. And I just remember my entire face was flushed red. I was so embarrassed. And
Oh
the one
no.
girl that knew my language came up to me and said, Nurhan, he was trying to tell you to move out of the way because they were playing dodgeball.
No.
I was mortified. But Sarah, you know what happened after that? This is when my little third grade brain captured this moment and made a promise to me saying, we will never go through this again. And that's how our subconscious mind is created through little things like that. It's not always trauma. It's these little
Yes.
moments that have such an impact on our identity because it's there to protect us. And it
Right.
takes these snapshots of time so that we're protected forever. And that shapes and makes this filter, this armor that we carry for the rest of our life, which is great, but then also it can limit us. So that was just the beginning of my life. But after that, I worked in a ton of different corporate roles, always trying to find myself, trying to find what is it that makes me happy, because I've always been
Yes.
fascinated by the human mind and what we're capable of. My family has always been in that. My grandfather, he was a physics professor. My mom was a mathematician. So I've always been around like the topics of quantum physics and time. And but it's still, the corporate world, had me hooked. So I lived in US, I lived in Australia, working there at UNICEF Australia. I lived and worked in Spain. And all of my roles, they were marketing, but it was always around training people and working with big
Right.
teams and motivating. And that's what felt like home, but it wasn't quite there yet. And it wasn't until I had my own set of challenges, because that's how we all awaken in this life. I had my set of challenges. And when I needed more guidance than ever, that's when I discovered a book that changed my life, and everything just clicked after that. And it helped me so much because I learned the power of our own mind, that every pattern, every issue, challenge that we ever go through is because of this armor that we're wearing, the one that I picked up in third
Interesting.
grade, because we are trying to protect ourselves. And so the brain ends up getting in this pattern, these loops, holding
Mhm.
us back from people or leading us to the wrong people, the wrong situations, just because of our own wiring. And
Yes.
until you learn this information and become conscious of it, you're living on autopilot. So when I learned this, it was such a huge impact on my own life that I devoted myself to getting certified, getting licensed in neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy, coaching, psychology, so I can help everybody else do the same. So that was the beginning of my chapter. And I did that work alongside corporate for a very long time until one day I knew that I have to go all in. So I gave my notice to corporate and I decided to go all into this business. And ever since I made that decision, the path has opened up for me because that's exactly what I'm meant to do. So that's how I am here.
Wow, that is a beautiful, beautiful opening. Thank you so much for sharing that much about you. And it helps us a lot understand who you are and where you come from. And this inquisitive mind of yours of wanting to understand, why am I acting this way? Why are people acting that way? And wanting to learn more about it and getting certified. It's incredible. I have to say, I mean, we spoke last time together, and I knew, and I listened to a lot of the testimonies also that people left, on your website about you and the work you've done with them and how much it has helped them. And it really helped me understand better where they're coming from.
Working with Nurhan has truly been such an uplifting experience. She has this natural way of guiding you that just makes things click. Whenever I'm dealing with some difficult situation, I hear her voice in my head reminding me what to focus on, and somehow everything just feels lighter, easier to handle. Thank you, Nurhan.
Nurhan has completely changed my life in the way I view it. When I first met her, I was telling her about how I really wanted to get into race cars and I wanted to find a way to make my social media grow and make everything about my life be around race cars and the things that I'm passionate about. She helped me to shift my mindset into a more positive way and made me think of things in a way that I never thought of before, which has allowed me to make changes in my life that I never thought possible. Immediately after her and I started working together, I was able to find sponsors, I was able to make connections. Every aspect of my life changed as soon as I started thinking in the way that Nurhan taught me. Forcing out the negative energy and only focusing on the positive things really helped to remove the toxic things from my life and bring in all the things that I want, which has been some pretty cool stuff. So thank you, Nurhan, for everything you have done. You have truly changed my life and allowed me to do so much more than I ever thought possible. Seriously, just by switching the way I look at things.
It's really incredible.
Thank
Um,
you.
can you share more about also when you unlocked your superpower of understanding that you needed to understand more, basically, about the human mindset, but also you focused more on the higher achievers you mentioned and entrepreneurs, and you focused on leaders. Is there a reason why you decided to focus on that specific, on those specific people and that specific topic?
Sarah, that's a very good question. So in the beginning of my work, I was helping everybody, right? Because
Yes.
everybody has the same issues, honestly. I mean, it looks different from the outside, but internally, we're all going through the same thing. So I found myself working with, coworkers, people who have physical illness that are, afraid. They were given a diagnosis and they're scared for their life. So working with those people, I worked with professional athletes that, retire from the NFL, for example, and now all of a sudden their identity is lost. They're in the world, and now all of a sudden everything's different. So I really enjoyed that work, and I still do some of that right now. And divorced women as well, having gone through something like that, I obviously understand them. So I really love working with women going through an identity change as well. But I was thinking, how can I make the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time? And because there's so many people in the corporate world who need help, and a lot of them don't even know what it is they need. All they know is that there's something off, that they're not feeling like themselves. There's so much anxiety in this world, and it all starts at the top, obviously. If the leadership in a big company is stressed out, is burnt out, is living in survival mode, it trickles down to every single employee.
Good point.
Right?
Very good point. I haven't thought about it at all. Yes, it starts from the top. It's true.
It really does. I mean, you can have the most passionate individuals and the product is great. But if the leadership, if everything is about high stress and deliverables and, oh my God, our results are, not what we expected on the forecast, it trickles down. And that makes all the difference. So I thought, let me target leadership then. And then that was the start of my speaking journey as well, because I go into a company and I do a workshop, and of course it's for the employees to help them understand their own mind and their own identity and how to change. But my goal also is to work with more leadership, because if they're more relaxed and if they're more at peace, then it makes all the difference. And that's what gives me the most fulfillment, is to see that the entire culture then changes.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I can understand how working with leaders really makes an impact and snowballs into whoever is under them.
Yes, exactly. And somebody could look so confident from far away. You might think like, oh, well, they're the CEO, they have all this money, they're the boss. But they are actually the most stressed out, because it's their face. They're the ones that are responsible. They're making all the decisions. And so behind the scenes, they're sitting there trying to figure out what's going to happen. They're, rehearsing all the worst case scenarios. And that's usually what gives them the most stress. And that's where I start working with them. It's like, if you're just focusing on the worst case scenario, your brain's not going to let that go. And your body believes that you're living in a danger zone in survival mode.
Your mother is also a healer, right? She focuses more on the body, and you focus more on the mind. I'd love to know why you haven't followed her footsteps and how did you get triggered by the mind so much?
Oh, very good question. Yeah, my mother, she's an interesting person. I've superwoman, because she's a math teacher, and she also composes her own music, and she has these healing abilities. She's extremely intuitive. So she blends all of that work, and the amount of people that she has helped with physical illnesses, obviously resetting the nervous system as well. But I have seen people for 10 years, he couldn't move much. He couldn't play basketball. His back was completely messed up. And then after 3 or 4 sessions with my mom, and she did not even lay a finger on him. And now he is going to the gym. He's playing basketball every day. It was a herniated disc that somehow got better. So I've seen her perform some miracles. But, for me, one can heal so much faster if they've got the right mindset. Because what happens is the brain sends
Yes.
signals to the body. The body is always listening to the instructions that the brain sends it. So that's why it's the story that we tell ourselves is so important. And a lot of people say, well, I can't control the story because of my life circumstances. Valid, but nothing is impossible. You can reprogram those stories with repetition. So I've seen people that she works with, if they actually work on their mindset and their mind starts sending different signals, different information to the cells, they go through transformation so fast. I've seen people reverse the C word. I don't want to say it out loud, but I've seen that happen in 3 months from, stage 4 to nothing, because obviously they incorporated Western medicine. I've seen them incorporate like a brand new diet, obviously.
We
Energy
can see the
healing.
word. We were speaking about cancer.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if YouTube blocks it or but
No, absolutely.
Okay.
We are here to have open conversations.
Oh,
The audience
perfect.
absolutely want to learn what
Okay.
is not in the media, what is
Yes.
not in TV that is fully controlled. We want to have honest conversations. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah. You never know with these censorships these days, but okay. I'm so
And
glad
there are
we can.
alternatives. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you're here to speak about it, because last time we had a conversation about an actual real case
Yeah.
of healing, and it does happen. So yes.
Absolutely. That's how I actually witnessed my mother go through a healing when I was 7 years old, where without any surgery, nothing, purely with an energy healer, and she healed her and everything vanished. And then once my mom, recognized her own abilities later in life, I see her performing those miracles for other
Right.
people. So, but what intrigues me the most is when the person has the right mindset that obviously changes their energy, and the information that is being sent to their cells is different. And that's why they heal a lot faster. So it makes her work a lot easier. And then also the person goes through an entire identity change after that. Because a lot of the times we get a physical illness is because the body is trying to give us a message to open our eyes and
Yes.
change up here. It's not about doing the work physically always. It's about doing it from the inside out.
You complement each other perfectly. And I hear you when you say that it comes from the mind. At the end of the day, if the mind isn't right, this is when you get all these inflammations, this stress, anxiety that snowballs into chronic diseases. And from there, it's obviously anything now becomes temptation. Can be alcohol, can be, eating junk food, can be anything. And we know that a lot of what we consume triggers also cancer. I mean, it's all very much linked. And I love that the fact that you said that it starts in the mind. It is such a powerful statement. And we do tend to want to heal the body, and we forget that we are in charge.
Absolutely.
So pretty incredible. I love that. Wow. It's really, I love it. I absolutely love it. You lived in Azerbaijan and Australia and the US, and you've worked with organizations like UNICEF. You spoke a little bit about it earlier, L'Oréal, Shepherd, and you bring obviously a wealth of experience and a broad perspective. I wanted to ask you, based on that, do you see misalignment as a global issue affecting all fields, or do you see it more common in certain areas, or maybe more common with higher achievers, or is it something you've just noticed consistently in your field of work?
Oh, very good question. I've noticed that obviously the pace and the cultural pressure absolutely does vary by country, Sarah. Like places like the United States, obviously there's often a stronger achievement-driven identity here, especially when it comes to work. And then in parts of Europe, including Spain, where I lived for a year, the lifestyle can feel a little bit slower and more relational, but misalignment isn't about geography, it's about identity. So even though I would say the reasons for the pressure can vary, but what we're going internally is very similar across the world. So for example, in US, there's this pressure to be successful, to get to where you are. If you don't have health insurance, or if you don't have this, then it's survival mode. So it's not only about your image, it's also about your survival. And that's why there's so much internal pressure when it comes to that. And then in places like Azerbaijan, for example, or Spain, there's limited opportunities. And so people feel like, okay, I need to graduate with the perfect scores. I need to get great test results because otherwise there's all this competition around me. And if I don't land this job, then, how am I going to afford this apartment? So I've seen, just so much anxiety. And when somebody is only thinking about the worst case scenario, I understand that's part of our protection, which I call our armor. When we are overthinking, it's like the helmet, you're wearing the helmet. What happens is the brain tries to rehearse and replay the same worst case scenarios for you to make sure to avoid that forever and never go through that again. But what happens is when it does that, the body, it doesn't know the difference between reality or imagination. So if you're thinking about the worst case scenario 24/7, it gets stuck in a loop because it's addicted to the familiar. Your body thinks this is actually happening. You start releasing so much cortisol, stress hormones, and that's what's sending all the signals to the rest of your organs. And what you were saying about how we start getting, inflammation and we have all these physical issues as a result of our mind. That's why it happens, because we are releasing way too much cortisol as if we're being chased by a lion right now.
Yes.
So it doesn't even matter what country, everybody is having hardships in that area.
Absolutely.
And I think that no matter the circumstances, we all have the power to control our inner state. I mean, there could be tornadoes around us. Any person can master their internal state. And when you can feel at peace, no matter what someone's saying in your face or what you're witnessing on the news, you could still be sympathetic without being empathetic. Empathetic means that you go down with them. So if you're watching a depressed person, instead of trying to uplift them, you go down with them. That doesn't help anybody.
Understood.
But you could be sympathetic, care for the person, provide support, but without absorbing the negativity. That's when you maintain a peaceful state of mind, internal state, and that's how you could actually uplift and help heal the world as well.
Wow. Wait a minute.
I know
It's
it took
like
a tangent. It took a tangent.
No, I love it. I understand why you're so successful as a keynote speaker, because you have, it's such a quality to be able to deliver your message efficiently the way you do. It's just, it's a no-brainer when we hear you speaking. We just get it. It's like, wake up and start taking care of your health.
Yes.
Work with somebody, with you, obviously, that can help you, unlock your potential and stop being in this mode of, feeling just desperate about life and stuck all the time. It's incredible, really. What is the main difference in mindset between working in a corporate world and helping now, individuals?
Well, like I mentioned before, I mean, individuals, a lot of the people that I help, they work in the corporate environment too. I do work with some entrepreneurs as well, but the issues, they may seem different on the surface, but they're all very similar, because in the corporate world, you're still going through the same issues. It's just more structured. There's more hierarchy. So you could kind of hide behind those roles, but you're still going through the same pressure. When you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself, you have actually nothing to hide behind. So all of a sudden, there's this new fear of being seen. Now you have like no excuses. You can't hide behind anybody or not, and the clock is ticking. So I find that entrepreneurs actually, their fears are a little bit more visible. But the pressure is very similar amongst entrepreneurs and also the corporate world, because in the corporate world, you've got people above, putting all this pressure on you to perform. Yes. And if you don't, obviously your job is on the line. And today, there's so many layoffs. I mean, you hear it left and right, 20,000 people, 14,000 people getting laid off. So everybody is starting to feel replaceable. with AI as well. That's a big fear that I keep seeing from people saying,
Mm.
AI is doing my copywriting. It can do this. And I say, you know what it can't replace? It cannot replace your ability to think critically, your ability to connect with people, your ability to read the room. AI cannot do that for you. So if you start focusing on your mindset, your soft skills when it comes to communication, relationship building, that's what's going to keep you in that position. So, like I said, we always jump to the worst case scenario, producing the cortisol, and eventually leading us to those results. Instead, the key thing is to stop yourself and say, oh, I'm running the same pattern. What is the best case scenario instead? What can possibly happen if it is the best case? Well, the best case scenario, I gain some new skills. They notice me for my human side of things, that I actually stand out when I'm speaking. I stand out when I talk to my clients. That's what's going to keep me in this position. And then you end up changing the trajectory of your own life. And a lot of those things, the challenges people are going through right now, it's all a lesson. It's a lesson for you to wake up and change your state of being, because I'm telling you, life gets so much better once you understand your own power.
Oh, very true. Very, very true. And you brought up something that I was going to speak about at the end of the podcast, and I'm glad it actually merged naturally now in the conversation, because Nurhan, you wrote an amazing article that I will link in the description down below, because I want you all to have access to this information. It's a little sneak peek into how to cope with AI and what your future might look like when you understand your own power versus, once again, like you said, the notion of being replaceable. Do you think that we haven't tapped enough into ourselves yet, and we are not looking at a poor future where AI is going to replace everybody, but we are looking at a bright future where we can reconnect with ourselves and with others?
Absolutely. It's exactly how you look at it. And we have to start getting a little bit more creative. We can't think in this outdated way where, oh, well, I used to do data management and now AI is going to replace it. We have to think a little bit bigger than that. I actually went to an incredible panel a few months ago, and it was women leadership from Disney, from CBS, and they were all talking about AI and how everything's changing, and especially the entertainment industry. There's all the editing, the actors are replaced. And they were saying that it's not technical skills that are now needed. That used to be last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now, what's irreplaceable are your soft skills. So if you are good at communication, if you are good at building relationships, like I said before, that's what's needed the most. And so what actually helped me become so successful in my old role before I gave my notice was my ability to connect with the clients, because I didn't speak to them in a very transactional way. Like, here's the sale, here's the contract. I treated every single client like they were a friend. Like, if I knew they were going on vacation, I will write them a list of restaurants that are my favorite if I've been to that place, because that's what makes the experience more fun. Like, they don't want to sit for 30 minutes talking to a vendor, but if you can make it an enjoyable experience, then we're here for each other. We're all in the same boat. Especially in the professional world, one of the pieces of armor that I talk about in my keynote is the shield. And the shield is guardedness. It's trying to be overly polite or very, very professional, but really, that's a form of protection because of experiences like what I mentioned at recess, or, when we've been embarrassed or something. The brain is like, you know what? You can't be too authentic because there's a risk that somebody might judge you. So make sure to be extra. Yes, exactly. You can't show too much of that.
They're poking you in a tender part. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So when you see people acting all, very professional and making sure not to say the wrong thing, and, oh, you can't be too friendly, that's a form of protection. So I challenge everybody in the professional world to put down the shield and start being more open. Yes, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but when you become more open, guess what? The people on the other side, they're enjoying that so much more. They are feeling like, oh, if she's doing that, I can be myself too. And you allow them to put down the shield. Then the conversation is not fake. Two people are not performing anymore. And that's what caused I was not even in a sales role, to be honest, but I was put in one anyways. And my sales results skyrocketed by 700% in one
Wow.
quarter. And it kept going like that for the whole year. And people came up to me asking, what do you do? How are you doing this? How did you overperform like this? And I said, I wasn't putting more effort into the sales aspect of it. I just focused on mindset and the human connection because that's what AI cannot replace. So that is one really important part of my talk that I offer to the corporate world is to remind them to be human.
Wow, incredible. I mean, they've been conditioned their whole life. And the truth is, I think society conditioned us to control us better.
Yes.
So when you've been raised generations after generations to do exactly what you're supposed to do or what people expect you to do, and now somebody's telling you, by the way, AI can do what you're doing. So be
Yeah.
yourself because this is what's going to make you, a successful person. You're like, be my who?
Yes,
Be my
exactly.
what? Myself. What does that even mean? So yeah, I can only imagine like how much of a jump it is for society as a whole. So ooh,
Yes. Yes.
it's a pretty,
It's
pretty, pretty big subject here.
it's a learning
Um,
curve.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And thank you for explaining also the shield and the armor concept. I know this is something that is one of the core of your practice with identity that we are going to speak about shortly.
Mhm.
And it's great to have an understanding on the values and once again the core values you're working on to improve the situation for people. And there is also something that came into my mind when I wrote the questions. It was about burnout. And I wanted to ask
Mm.
you if burnout was about workload or was it about misalignment? You made me wonder about this. I was like, is it because we're working too much or is it because we are not authentic in what we do?
You are very intuitive, Sarah. You're on the right path, exactly. Because I don't think that burnout is always about workload. It can be, but most of the time, like I've seen people work incredibly hard and feel very energized because they love what they do. Or I see
Yeah.
people that are, working moderate hours, but they feel completely depleted. And I'm an example of that. I remember when I was in a role which was all about client management, but I really wanted to do live events because this was a remote company. And I thought, we don't have any live events. Can I put something on? And they were like, we don't have budget for that. And I was like, just give me 1,500. Like that's it. And then I will find a venue that can suffice. And they were like, okay, if you can do something with 1,500, go ahead. Somehow I was able to find a venue, some food and drinks included. We had over 100 developers come to this conference.
Wow.
It turned out really great, but because my budget was so tiny, the amount of work and scrappy manual work that I had to put in, I mean, it was more than any other role I've ever done. But because I was feeling really passionate about it, it was my own, and I really wanted it to succeed, I was excited. And so the workload was way higher, but I felt more energized. Whereas I've had some roles in the past where I'm tasked with doing something that was definitely not on my job description. It felt icky. I had to sell something I wasn't really feeling passionate about. I didn't really believe in the product. And
Yes.
even 4 hours of it felt like I was working for 12 hours. So that's why it's so important for everybody to be honest with themselves and remind themselves like, okay, am I doing something I love? And I understand that not every person is in the
Yeah.
position of walking away from their job, but it's not about making a radical move immediately. It's about first breaking the pattern because a lot of people are still stuck in a hamster wheel. Your brain wants you to do that because it feels like it's protecting you by keeping you comfortable. But the way we change our life is by pausing that wheel, breaking that old pattern because it's never going to stop until you consciously do it, and ask yourself, what is it that I used to love doing as a kid, for example? And that question
Okay.
might seem very cliche, like, well, obviously I like to play. No, no, no. I go deeper. Exactly how did you like to play? When I was asked that question, I thought, I didn't like sports. Gosh, I'm definitely not athletic. Okay, I didn't really play with dolls. I did not, so I was thinking like, well, how am I supposed to know what my purpose is from childhood? And the person that was working with me, they were digging deeper. They're like, but what lit you up? Like when you were 8 years old, what activities? And I was like, I used to love putting on little performances. I used to love choreographing dances or doing some kind of like, drama plays. And now I'm a speaker. Like, oh my God, that's crazy that as an 8-year-old, that's what lit me up. It's interesting that when I talk to my own clients and I dig deeper, the activities that they like to take part in when they were younger, that is your true soul calling. Yes, it's not the exact career, but it's a glimpse of it, of like what actually
What
lights you
makes
up.
you happy?
What makes
Yes.
you happy, whether it's playing with people or whether it's being by yourself, like looking at all the little bugs or something. I mean, there's always a little clue earlier in life before we are conditioned and have limiting beliefs instilled in us. So,
Right.
so if somebody's feeling stuck or burnt out, that is their little nudge to stop and actually think, what makes me happy? And before doing anything, any radical changes, you start exploring that a little bit. Maybe sign up for a little online course or check if your town has like, pottery classes or anything to do that will get you closer to that goal. A little bit of exploration. And once you start doing that, you will see that your doors actually start opening you to new ideas, new people. All of a sudden, you might see that there's a whole new community that you didn't know about. And that's how you follow the breadcrumbs closer to your mission, to your goal, or to something that actually makes you happy. And that's exactly how I found my path here. Not because I just said, I don't like what I'm doing, I'm quitting. No, I was intrigued by the mind. I started reading all the books. I was in preparation mode for a long time without even knowing where it was going to take me. I just wanted to learn everything about it. Then I started taking courses. I wanted to better myself. Then once I learned about myself, then I started to take more courses to then get certified so I can help other people. But you see, that wasn't overnight. It was little breadcrumbs that led me from one decision to another because you're just meant to see what's directly in front of you. You're not meant to know the
True.
entire map. And if you trust that this next step feels better because it's a little more aligned to my authentic self, take that step. That's the universe telling you you're on the right path. And don't put pressure on yourself. But I don't know if it's going to make me money. It doesn't matter. If you are going
Yeah,
towards
that's that
something,
people ask themselves that question all the
yes,
time. Yeah.
right? Because we're in survival mode, but you're still going about your own life. You're still working the job that you usually just take steps towards something that makes you happy and just see if you didn't like that course, if you didn't like that pottery class or whatever, that you don't have to do it again, but at least you tried it. But I'm telling you, if it's something that lights you up and you actually go for it, it will lead you somewhere else.
So when you feel misaligned, you have to look for the solution where you feel the happiest. Don't stay stuck where you are. You also have another concept. And you know what? Let's dive. We have done it already, but let's dive even deeper into your program. I'm just going to jump across all the subject we wanted to
Absolutely.
cover, but I want to hear more now because I know you also have another concept, which is the concept of identity.
Yes.
So we speak about the armor, the misalignments, and now identity. Can you tell us more about that?
Identity, absolutely. It is the stories and the narrative that you tell yourself. So
Okay.
when we are born, we come in blank slate. We know that all possibilities exist. All we want to do is play. That's why toddlers, they don't want to hear no because they come in knowing that anything is possible. And
That's
then
beautiful.
as they grow up,
That's
us
beautiful.
adults start implementing all these limitations and rules. And that's why you see kids that are saying no so much to their parents, not because they want to be annoying, but because that's not their true, authentic self. They know that their freedom is theirs. And so that's why as parents, we have to
Oh,
be
wow.
very
So we are
careful.
born with that knowledge?
Yes, we are born with that knowledge. Even though the brain is not fully developed, the soul knows. But between 0 and the age of 7, 95% of our subconscious mind is formed. And a lot of that is obviously based on our surroundings, our parents, our caregivers, our babysitters, school. If we're getting a lot of limitation, and if people are saying, we can't afford this, oh, this is not possible, our culture is not equipped for this, whatever it is, our brain is a sponge and it takes everything as 100% truth before the age of 7. And then after that, with big life events, big breakups or whatever, embarrassing moments, it also, conditions the mind. And that becomes our filter, our entire viewpoint of the world and our self-worth. That's how we see the world, because that's how the brain knows how to protect us. And the reason I say that is because the brain is like a computer system. It collects information and then it spits that information back out at you. So kind of like AI, you give it information and then you ask it a question, and based on the knowledge it has, it'll give you answers. Same thing with the brain. It's all recycled material based on what you picked up through your life. And one thing that the brain craves more than anything else, Sarah, is the familiar. If it does not feel familiar, it is going to do everything in its power to try to hold you back in the comfort zone. And that's why so many people have a hard time changing. If they've been telling themselves the same story over and over again, I'm this person, this is my age, this is where I work, I'm a little bit insecure, I'm an introvert, I'm not good around people, whatever those things might be, if you tell yourself that story, it doesn't mean it's true. It's just because that's what you picked up along the way in your life because other people told you that. And then the brain starts believing it and it plays it back to you like a record player over and over again, making sure that you don't go outside of that little box because that's what feels unfamiliar and risky. So that's why people feel stuck. They want to change, but they don't know how to change. It's because the brain is running a pattern and it does not want you to change. It feels unfamiliar. So that's where the real work comes in. You stop yourself, you understand, wow, all these stories, this pattern, that's not actually me. This is just because that's what's been fed to me. And if you stop yourself and then break that pattern by making a different decision, like, you know what? I always go to this coffee shop. Today, I'm going to go to that one. Like just tiny little decisions. Yes, it stops this pattern. This wheel is turning and all of a sudden you go to a different coffee shops, it goes boop, and then it stops. And actually you start releasing different chemicals. You start making different connections in the brain because now it's not automatic. It's a conscious decision that broke the old pattern. And if you start doing that enough with different aspects of life, especially with your own thoughts and stories, that's where life, it drastically changes.
And the concept of identity, this is how you find your identity, or this is how you change it?
This is how, well, when you change it, that's when you find it as well. Because the first step is to recognize that if we don't like the way we're living, if we don't like this critical voice in our head, the truth is that's not your authentic self, because your authentic self comes in this world limitless, freedom, flexibility, joy, and anything outside of that, this critical voice that we hear in our head that never stops talking, that voice is that computer program. It's the recycled material that we picked up along the way, but that's not us. The real you is the awareness. I know this is a little deep, but it's the awareness behind the thought. Like if you hear yourself saying, I'm not ready, oh, I'm too shy before this podcast, but then you stop yourself, you're still listening to this voice. The one that's listening to that voice, that's you. That's the real you. So you can pause that voice, you could change it or lower it, and then you realize, oh my God, I just had the power to do that. If I can do that, can I actually replace that with the best case scenario instead? So when you start doing that, you actually get to know yourself. You get to know that this voice, that's not you. You get to know that you're the awareness. And then you start to know that you can change the narrative to match what actually you want instead. When you start to change the narrative, that's you getting closer to your true identity.
Oh my word. I mean, I'm literally absorbing all of this. It's incredible. What an amazing value for the audience. I mean, we understand a lot of the concepts you just mentioned. It's out there, sticking with what's familiar, the fact that we have some patterns that we need to break them. But this actually explains it in the underlying causes that we might not always understand where it comes from. I feel you really enlightened us on this.
Oh,
I absolutely adore this explanation. Even I had no idea how to really define what was a pattern. Once again, sometimes information is out there and you have absolutely no idea on, how to understand it so you can change it. And it really made a difference for me, at least. I'm really hoping that everybody out there got the same feeling, because it's an incredible, and it says a lot again about your program. Your program, tell us more about how long does it take, and what people can expect when they're misaligned and what it means for them to find clarity.
I mean, honestly, sometimes it's so fast, Sarah. Like, depending on the burning desire somebody has, I've seen it happen so fast. And then sometimes, yes, if somebody is really stuck in the drama of their life and they can't even perceive a better possibility, yes, we then gently start and then I guide them towards it. So sometimes it's a 10-week journey, but for example, I had this 25-year-old guy come to me and he's like, "Hi, Nurhan. I don't believe in any of the stuff. My mom made me come." And I was like, "Oh, great. Okay." He's forced to come. But he was like, "I'm unhappy. I don't like my corporate job." He's sales management. He's like, "My dream is to become a race car driver. I know everything about racing. I'm obsessed with it. I even built I turned my Ford into a race car. So I know everything about it, but I feel stuck and I can't find a girl. I can't do, and I'm just like, whoa, hold on a second. You're giving me a laundry list of everything that's wrong in your life. Let's reposition that. What is good? What are you proud of?" So he gave me a few things that he's thankful for. So we broke the pattern, that loop that he was just running on unconsciously. We broke it. I was like, "Hey, how many times do you actually make a list of things that's, going well?" Never. So that spins the wheel the opposite direction, pretty much. And then I gave him
Can I tell you something?
Yes, absolutely.
It is so funny how your brain works, because I know I'm not talented in what you do just with this explanation you just gave.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's great. He knows what doesn't make him happy. So it's going to be easier for him to be happy after that, rather than telling myself that he was literally stuck in a loop. So I'm not, okay.
Yes.
It's good to know. All right. Sorry, go ahead. I just realized how bad I was at analyzing people. I was like,
good. You're right, Sarah.
Oh my word. Okay.
You're so funny.
Sorry I cut you.
No, it's okay. I think it is good to know what you don't want. But it turns into a problem when we are stuck there and then we keep replaying those stories, because, like I said, the more you tell yourself the same thing, the brain really hardwires it. It becomes the truth. It's like crystallized, and then it's harder to undo those patterns, right?
Yes.
So he was doing that without even realizing that he's doing that. And I told him, every time you tell yourself the story, you end up attracting more results like that, because your brain will only guide you to more opportunities to experience the same pain or the same frustration. That's what happens.
Oh.
Yes, that's, some people call it the law of attraction, but this is how the subconscious mind works. Like, on a neuroscience level, it's when the brain is addicted to the familiar. And when you tell yourself the same stories, that's what feels familiar to the brain. So then, because the subconscious mind is your filter of the world and yourself, it will only let you notice things or think of things that match the story that you are telling yourself. Anything outside of that story feels like a risk to the brain. So let's say there's a networking event and there's somebody standing across from you, and that is, you are one conversation away from your life being changed because it's the businessman that you need the partnership with. Your brain, because of the waves, we're intelligent beings, it picks up on that information. It knows that if I guide that person to that person, this is what's going to guide them to their goal. But if you have been telling yourself a different story of how you're unworthy, you're shy, you're not capable, that's what's familiar to the brain. So what it's going to do is divert your attention elsewhere so that you go towards something that leads you towards that truth, the truth that you're not worthy. That's why it's so important to break the pattern. And even if you don't believe it in the beginning, to start telling yourself a different story so that you reprogram your beliefs. With repetition, that's what happens. And then you start clearing that filter. And that's what gives you new ideas, new thoughts, new opportunities, and it guides you to make different decisions because now it starts to feel safer in the body. When it starts to feel more safe, which means risk-free, then you get to meet the right people, come to opportunities like a podcast, for example, which will guide you towards your goal.
So when somebody goes through your program, finding clarity is basically reprogramming the brain so you can attract more opportunities.
Absolutely.
And thrive.
And some people will say, well, that's overwhelming. That's crazy. Like, I have so many thoughts, and how am I supposed to figure this out on top of everything that's going on in my life? The interesting thing is, it's not about figuring out. It is about lowering the noise. Because once the noise of this machine that just keeps yapping in your head, that's not true. Once you lower that noise, and you can absolutely learn to do that quickly, the clarity comes naturally because you are clarity. Your soul, your energy is already clarity. And it is whispering and trying to give you guidance every day, but you just don't hear it. Like, imagine if you have a little best friend and it's there to give you guidance. And if you're talking to that best friend like this, you could hear its guidance. That's what happens when we're kids. We don't have any limiting beliefs or rules. We hear our intuition very clearly. But imagine if you take that best friend to a restaurant and it's a little crowded. You still hear that friend, but you have to pay attention a little more because there's a lot of people around. But imagine if you go to a rock concert or heavy metal and the best friend is still speaking in that same volume, that same tone, is still giving you guidance. Can you hear it? Absolutely not. There's too much noise. So you're like, my guidance is not there. God, why don't you send me any guidance? Nothing has changed. The guidance is there. It's speaking to you. But what happens is you put yourself in an environment with too much noise and you cannot hear your own intuition. So what I teach people is take control of your mind. It is overthinking to protect you. It's overthinking worst case scenarios because it thinks that it's keeping you from experiencing them. It doesn't mean it's true. So if you become conscious of that, aware of it, and then learn to pause every single time you notice that there's a thought that you did not invite deliberately, you pause and then you ask yourself, it wants me to think about the worst case scenario. Thank you, brain. But what is the best case scenario? Now, instead of that being automatic based on the old story that feels familiar, now you put a new blueprint. Now you're asking, what is the best case scenario? Something that you choose, not the computer program. You choose that thought. And that's what starts to become familiar. The brain needs a map. Okay, yes. Sarah? The brain absolutely needs a map. That's how we function as human beings. It needs a map. Right now, most people are using an outdated map. It's a map of the record of the past, of all the pain, embarrassing stories, things that you've been told. That's a really old map. If you were in a car about to drive and you put an address in the GPS, would you put the address of where you are now, or would you put the address of your destination? You would put your destination, right? Because it's going to lead you to where you want to go. But a lot of the people keep putting the same address of where they are right now.
That's a
So
good metaphor. Yeah.
your brain, it has nothing to work with. It's following an old map. So instead, you recognize, okay, I've been following this old map. Let me create a new blueprint. The new blueprint is the best case scenario. What is the best case scenario? That's the new map. But now that you've made this map, okay, so this is the direction I want to go in. I want more happiness. I want more freedom. Okay, you've got the map. It still feels unfamiliar to the brain though, because this is 30 years of hardwiring, this old map. This map, you just created it. That sounds, I mean, the brain is terrified of that. So how do you make it feel more familiar to the brain so it can start favoring this map versus the old one? Repetition, mental rehearsal. It's when you have to pause every single day and say, oh, I'm reverting back to the old map. What is the best case scenario? What is the new blueprint? Every single time you keep reintroducing the new map, a better picture for your brain. Over time, the brain surrenders. That becomes more familiar than that. So now instead of referencing and favoring the old, it's now referencing and favoring the new.
The new with all the opportunities, all the positive thoughts, all the abundance you're creating for yourself, and it becomes your
Yes.
reality.
Yes.
Oh, wow, it sounds spectacular.
This is
I
it.
love that.
And that's why, there's so much misinformation out there about like, be
Wow.
positive or be this or be It's not about being more bubbly or being fake. It is about giving your brain a new map.
Well, I told you this information is out there. It's been out there since like The Secret came out, and maybe even before, because I wasn't,
Yes,
into those
yes.
things before. But
Yeah.
it's just there was a lack of definition behind it. You're really bringing that to the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, that's my passion. I'm like, because if there's too much information out there, people get overwhelmed and then they see the information, but they don't implement any of it. But if you know the why, the simple why behind what we do, it causes you to actually make a difference right there and then. You make a commitment to yourself, like from this point forward, I'm no longer referencing the old map. I'm going to start asking myself, what is the best case scenario? And life, Sarah, life, 180, it flips on you when you start doing that consistently, because
Oh, I hear it.
you rewire, you completely rewire everything. And even that term sounds very complicated. You pretty much allow the brain to feel safer with this new blueprint. Once it feels safer, the filter is removed. And now, like I said, it sends you new ideas. And it sends you, a thought like, oh, I want to do this. That's how, honestly, all the decisions I've made that have led me to my success has been because I did that work. Like, I got an idea, there's this event happening in LA. And usually my overthinking brain, the old me, would have said, oh, it's too far of a drive. There's rush hour traffic and it's only $50. That sounds too good to be true. It's probably a scam. Don't go. The new me, yes, I had those thoughts, but the new me challenged those thoughts. And I said, that's an old map. If I got excited about this ad that I saw and it's only a 40-minute drive, if it's bad, I'll leave. But what happened was when I went to that event, and yes, it's a great event, it ended up being a giant sales pitch. So yes, we're getting value from the speakers and whatever, but then they're trying to sell us a $100,000 package. And I'm like, oh, okay, no wonder it was such a cheap event. So in that moment, the old me, the old map, the old overthinking me would have said, get up and leave. Like, this is a 2-day event. Why would I stay here when they're just trying to sell us something? The new me said, if I came here from a place of passion and I'm here, something guided me to be here. So even if it's a waste of time, I'm still learning. Stay. And I planted myself on that seat.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be positive. It's not like, I'm always smiling. No, it's challenging the old thoughts and being like, there's obviously a reason for me to be here, whether it's to learn a lesson or whatever it is, it's for my own growth. So I stayed. Now, rewind 2 weeks before that event, I was looking for a speaker mentor because I always knew I liked to speak. I just needed somebody to guide me in the business side of things. Like, how do I book? How do I do this? I looked all over the place, Instagram, online, Google. Everything was like $20,000. And if you don't pay that much money, you don't get one-on-one time. It's usually, some kind of modules and program. I was looking for one-on-one. So I got overwhelmed and I was like, you know what? I can't afford it. So I closed my laptop. Now, 2 weeks later, when I'm sitting at that event and I decided to stay, even though it was a sales pitch, I put down the shield so I wasn't guarded, and I turned around to the guy sitting next to me and I was like, hi, what's your name? And he's like, oh yeah, this is my name. What do you do? What do you do? We started talking. He happens to be a speaker, a professional speaker for the past 20 years. I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, that's my passion. I love speaking so much. I opened up. I wasn't being too professional. No. I told him what my goals are. We exchanged information. 2 days later, he texted me and he said, Nurhan, I'm opening a speaker school. And as I'm launching this, I'm looking for 2 people that are very serious about becoming speakers. And in exchange for your feedback, I will mentor you for free, one-on-one. I was blown away. I mean,
Wow.
I was like, you are the person I was looking for. I didn't even know I was looking. I didn't know I was going to attract this for free. The amount of value, Sara, that I get from this person, I mean, words cannot explain. No money could replace what I've gotten from this mentor. He's the reason I'm here. But had I listened to this negative overthinking mind, the old me, I would have been out of that door. Or if I was too guarded holding my shield, I would have just said, hello, nice to meet you. And then I would have kept waiting for the speaker to come up. I wouldn't have told him about my life goals and dreams. This opportunity happened because I was open enough, because I wasn't thinking about what he's thinking or am I being judged. And this is what I invite my audience to do the same. It's like, put the shield down. The brain's going to want you to seem all perfect and, judge or I'm being seen. No. Put the shield down. Remove the helmet. Stop overthinking. Break the old patterns because they're matching the old map. Let's reference the new map. And that's how everything starts coming your way, because now the brain feels safe for you to move towards those opportunities. It's because I did that work that the brain was now feeling more safe with the future me versus the old me. It allowed me to notice the guy sitting next to me. It allowed me to speak more freely. If it didn't feel safe, it would have my nervous system would have probably freaked out and I would have just been silent. So that's why the inner work is so important.
Oh, that's a great example. And the transformational side of your practice really shines with the way you've been explaining this to us, and even how you are able to self-reflect on your own ability to practice your own knowledge. And we realize now I realize, I hope that everybody who's listening realizes as well, that it's an ongoing work. And it's incredible to have somebody like you to really help fast forward the process. Nurhan, where can we reach out to you? We're getting to the end of this podcast, and it was incredible. The value, I'm mind blown. No joke at all. I'm so glad. I'm always excited in my podcast, but the thing is, when you get this in-depth information that has been missing this whole time, especially because I'm very involved in these kind of conversation, and when I learn, I'm like, I'm still learning. What is this? So it's a treat for me, really. Thank you so much for today. Tell us more how we can reach out to you. Tell us more about your online program on your website. And I would love to know also if you want to be contacted for speaking events, because you are incredible and we need more of you out there.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you for the opportunity. Absolutely. Like I said, I love working one-on-one with people, so I'm still offering that. So you could find me on nurhanora.com. So NURHANORA.com. But yeah, so you can book that. I'm making an online course because a lot of people ask me, the similar questions. And so instead of explaining it over and over again, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to record a course. So that's coming soon. But
And there is only one of you. So we
Yes,
we
yes.
need that course to be available for
Yes.
people so you really kind of scale that.
Right.
It's we need it.
That's the big plan right now. So I'm so excited to work on that. But of course, speaking engagements, that is that's my heart and soul, of course, because then I can work with more people, and it's not just a speech; it's an entire workshop. So while I'm speaking and telling stories, I have everybody closing their eyes, and I help them actually experience everything too, and partner up and practice what I teach them. So I'm absolutely open to more speaking engagements, and thank you in advance for anybody who reaches out to me.
Okay, incredible. That's amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know about how to reach out to you. And as usual, you know that I will write everything in the description down below. I cannot encourage you enough to reach out to Nurhan. She's incredible. I spent time talking to her beforehand. I mean, during or first meet and greet, and I didn't see the time going by. She's just a well of knowledge, an incredible human being, and she's here today because I was dying to have her to share this incredible personality on my platform here, so you can all get to know her and connect with her. So please do so. Nurhan, it was incredible having you. I'm out of compliments, so we're gonna have to go.
Sarah, thank you so much. This was amazing. This is probably one of my favorite interviews. It just felt so authentic. You're an amazing host, by the way. And I
appreciate you.
can't
Thank
wait to
you.
keep watching your podcast blow up. I'm going to be sending it left and right to everybody that I meet.
We're gonna have even two organized events, I think,
Ooh.
where we will get to co-host together and have women in the room and really uplift women, in
Yes.
person. I'm dying to do that with you. So stay tuned, guys, if you want to hear more about that as well.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you, Sarah, and
Awesome.
thank you, everybody.